employees, or do we support our children? Like, is that gonna be your main target? Is essential
The
employees?
first thing that we have to do is we have to have this meeting and come up with, and the school, the district, the committee has to come up with a number that's gonna be asked, to vote on. And that number could be the 691, it could be less, it could be equal, we will find out on the 22nd, and that's the point. And yeah, it's tough. And, parent, you vote for your school, you vote your taxes. I would just think, but that's the process, that's the deal. We didn't make the rules, we just have to kind of go along with them. Ken?
I just wanted to answer two things. The one thing just to remind people of too is that Phillipston's going to be voting there and voting as well. So we probably want to discuss what, even if it was appropriate to discuss what our cuts are going to be, we want Phillipston really to have a say in making those kind of determinations because we're going to kind of be voting as a group, not as two separate towns. It'll be everyone kind of fills in together. So that is the one thing. The other thing too that I just wanted to, I know that in the past there had been discussion of a possible compromise with a smaller amount of an override. So that there's even one more, not to add one more unknown to your condition, but let's say the school agrees to cut 300 or agreed to cut 200 and we could find 100 grand without laying anybody off or cutting hours. We could find another way to do it, and then maybe there'd be some reduced amount override. So that's still a possibility that could happen.
We're not gonna know that before the meeting.
Not until we know what the school's budget is, because that we can't really take any action until they have a budget.
I guess my question is, why haven't you guys gotten together prior to the meeting to kind of come up with a game plan so that you can educate people as to how things are gonna go? Like, why aren't you talking? Aren't you guys?
There is actually an informal meeting tomorrow afternoon of some members, both parties, to discuss or get clarification on some items of that nature. So there will be
That's good to hear.
some knowledge of, how it will be approached, or at least kind of what to expect to look at.
And is that gonna be public?
It's not a meeting that's not going to vote on anything or decide anything. It's just an informational meeting, and it's between some members of the select board, the moderator, and some school committee members. There's no quorums involved, there's no nothing. It's just we're getting together to talk nice about some things at the meeting and the numbers and things like that. But it's not no open, posted public meeting because, again, it's not a quorum of anyone, so it's not covered by the meeting law, so it doesn't have to be posted and doesn't have to be open to the public. It's just an informal communication. So hopefully someone with the ground rules and everybody will play nice, that type of thing.
That's all right, go ahead. I'll do yours.
Okay. Wilfred. And then
Some communities, just reading the newspapers, at times have had public forums. So these things are discussed out in open meeting. Now, you mentioned having a meeting tomorrow afternoon. The majority of people in the town of Templeton who are going to be voting at this coming meeting, really, there's not been a general invitation to them. So the people who are going to vote at the meeting are not part of, the people who are going to vote at the town meeting, joint town meeting, are not involved in this meeting that you're having tomorrow afternoon. So the people that are going to vote are not going to have a lot of information.
Thank you.
Bingo.
No, there's nothing to be discussed. It's the school budget.
And part of what you just said, Mopsy, is, and this is just my opinion, observation, is we're kind of past that point of that meeting. That's something that should have been done before the first annual town meeting. However, it didn't happen, and we're to this point where things are tough. It's a rough situation for a lot of things.
I agree with you. I think what Mr. Dennis is trying to say is that there just hasn't been a lot of communication in public, like what April's trying to say, where are you making cuts? We only hear the rumor mill. that's what we hear. I hear the same
And
thing
that's
that
essentially how it
April's
We-
hearing, and it's
we
scary.
don't
So I
know-
think what Mr. Dennis is saying is that if you're getting together, it's
We
kind of like we should need to know.
We don't know the number
Right.
yet, so.
The
you know,
school's
it's
already come
just-
out with all their cuts, which are very upsetting. So, so we already know where the school's gonna cut, which we don't like, but
Okay.
we don't know where you're gonna be.
All right, Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, I'm just kind of confused here. Is the motion that we're looking for tonight to determine whether or not we're going to investigate the contribution for the school? Is that what, you need a motion for right now? or-
No, that was an
No.
agenda item.
This
The
was brought
discussion.
up for informational discussion on the past meeting.
Okay.
And it's on the agenda again tonight because we talked about it and it's a new thing and various selectmen took initiative, went on their own and did investigating. So I put it on the agenda for an informational item only to make it aware that this is an option maybe that we could pursue it. I mean, if it doesn't make sense or doesn't help this year, then, it's not gonna be done, but it's just something, information is not a bad thing, and options are things to have.
I was just, thinking if I could find out what the motion was to move the meeting along a little bit.
Can I just say,
Yes,
just a clarifying point is, it sounds like when we're talking, and it's just a conversation, it sounds like on the 22nd, you believe you're gonna know what that number is, and then you could potentially look at what cuts would be or not be.
No, we can't.
But, hold on, that was just, this is why we're having the meeting tomorrow, so we make sure that when we're communicating, no matter who's hearing it, we're kind of saying the same things, because I think between the select board and I take responsibility as a superintendent, that sometimes we're talking about the same thing, but people in the audience are getting a very different message, and it's very confusing. And so we're gonna attempt to try to understand when we say a number or a timeline, that we're all on the same page, select board, school committee, so that we're not confusing folks in the audience. Because what I was hearing, and I probably was wrong, was that, well, when we know the budget, well, you may not know the budget till December 1st, depending on if it gets reduced, it comes back to the school committee, they need to vote 2/3, they may not, then it goes back to another town meeting, and so on and so forth. It continues to go on that way until December 1st. So I think what I was hearing from a couple people in the audience is, if you go to December 1st and then it's set, you've already spent half your fiscal year's budget,
Yes, have
which
you-
we're gonna be billing 1 month at a time. You are already, and we're billing based on last year's dollar amount, not last year's money. Every month, starting July 1, you are spending $30,000 more than you budgeted. So right now, you're $60,000 spent more than you budgeted, and this thing could go to December. I don't, it's your business what you do. I just want to make sure that everybody's clear the timeline and
Yes.
where we are now with the budget and how the process goes forward. And ultimately, if we can't decide December 1st, the Department of Ed will decide. That's all, and that's one of the reasons, Jeff, you guys had decided to meet with us so that, with the moderators, so that we can all be clear, because if we're not all clear, there's no way we're gonna be able to communicate that. Is that fair?
Yes, that's why I said, it's an informational meeting, there are no votes, no quorums, it's not covered by open meeting law, it's just some people getting together to talk to make sure that we understand and where we are and what's gonna be asked. And, what, all the steps and get cleared, and the moderator knows that both sides, the information has been put out, and he has a handle on the meeting, because I know the last thing Bob wants is one of these free-for-all, where we don't even know what the heck we're talking about. So, Bev,
What everyone has to understand, at this point in time, because changes weren't made on town meeting floor, there are only 2 ways to get money. One way is an override. The people in the town have said no 4 times. The second way is for cuts. if a large number is decided on, you can kid yourself all you want. There is only so much money in our budget. So that's the bottom line, like it or not.
Yes, and then we're gonna
Okay.
move this on.
So if you don't mind me asking, why go through all these different steps? Why go through these meetings where most likely the budget isn't gonna be approved or accepted? Why not just let the state come in and set the budget?
Excuse me, can I?
That's,
Can I please?
yes, Julie?
This is the process that was set in motion when the school committee recertified their budget on June 12th, 13 days before the override on June 25th. They set the 45-day clock running for the special town meeting that was held. Okay? The result of that vote, they took a vote to hold a joint town meeting. The Board of Selectmen did not vote to have a joint town meeting. The Board of Selectmen did not vote to recertify the school committee budget on June 12th, before the override on June 25th. That had also failed on April 30th. Okay, the same dollar figure. Okay, that's why.
All right. As I said, this was put on here, carryover from last meeting. It was informational. We really can't do anything with this except to take it under advisement. And just to be formal about this, I would look for a motion to take this information under advisement for future discussion and possible maybe use.
I make a motion to take the information on fiscal year waivers, education reform, spending requirements under advisement until a future date.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Farrell, seconded by Selectman Morrison. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Julie? Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes, motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is police detail pay. And I believe this carries over from contract. This was done back in June, late May. I was not here, but they are looking for an answer. And Julie, you were at
I was
at this
on the
meeting,
negotiating committee for the
subcommittee.
police detail. What-
Please, excuse me, please, if you, I can hear you, so I discuss your name. All right, Julie?
All right. What the police are looking for is a memorandum of understanding so that this part of the contract, all wages have been put on freeze until we know where we stand as far as the budget goes. But this one particular item was a separate item that we negotiated, and it was for a $1 increase from $39 an hour to $40 an hour, which are paid by contractors and businesses when the police do the details. So it's not gonna have an effect on our bottom line of our budget. So it's not gonna increase the hole that we're in, or would be in, or may be in, okay? So what the police are looking for is a memorandum of understanding, like an aside agreement to the contract, so that they can start getting paid that $1 an hour more when they do details.
That the selectmen know about this and approve back, give them their formal agreement that to,
Right.
when you approach contractors, this would be part of the bid, part of the cost of the project. All right. Anything on that?
No.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to send a memorandum to the police department concerning their police detail pay. Selectmen formally back from an increase from $39 to $40 per hour. And again, this comes from the contractors. When a project comes up, they pay the police this amount to be out there on duty, traffic, and et cetera.
So moved?
Right here.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Selectman Robinson, seconded by Selectman Morrison. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes, motion carries. All right, last thing Yeah. Is an item that I put on, and I understand the board, we sent a letter requesting some information from the light department. And to date, I don't believe there's been an answer from the light department, either the elected light commission, light board, or the manager. So what I did, I looked up Mass General Law 164, which covers manufacture and sale of gas and electricity. And I gave a copy to each member of the board and for the office for attachment to the minutes. Chapter 164, Section 56, Management of the Plant. There are two things within this law. One, and it's highlighted in pink, about midway down, it says, all accounts rendered to or kept in the gas or electric plant of any city shall be subject to the inspection of the city auditor or officer having similar duties, and in towns, they shall be subject to the inspection of the selectmen. So this is the state law that gives the selectmen the authority to inquire and look at records such as contracts for the wind turbine, Massachusetts Energy Cooperative. And down at the bottom, the last sentence, or the last couple sentences, the manager shall at any time when required by the mayor, selectmen, municipal light board, if any, or department, make a statement to such officers of his doings, business, receipts, disbursements, balances, and the indebtedness of the town in his department. So what I was asking for from the board, if you so desire, is, like I said, several requests have come out of this office to the light board, to the manager, for various things, and they haven't shown up. And feet are usually dragged on responding to written requests from the Board of Selectmen. And this section of the law gives the selectmen the authority to not only look at those items and have access to them, but to summon the manager of the light department before the Board of Selectmen, where it's hoped we can get the information that we have asked for. And just some questions to be answered here, asked and answered, and information provided on such things as any audits that have been done, the expenses of the wind turbine, just generally the financial expenses and debts incurred by the light department. We have the Massachusetts general law that back up my contention and that gives the selectmen the authority to do this. Are there any comments or input from the rest of the board? Hearing-
I did attend the light and water meeting last Tuesday,
Yes.
and there has not been any progress made. The letter that we sent them, the manager managed to stamp it in and bring it to the notice of the commissioners. But as far as any of the contracts that we had asked, over $5,000 for both light and water from the year 2000, I believe no effort has been made to gather them, which was our request, was to follow the law that's on the books. So I believe a request by to have the manager appear and ask and answer some questions. There was also some other interesting information about the Templeton Developmental Center that we should probably be apprised of. They're doing a lot of work. The state has approached them, Department of Agriculture, DCAM, DSS have approached them about taking over the electrical distribution system, and they've approached them about taking on the water system as well. So I think it would be in our best interest to have a report on what activity is going on up at the Fernald School and what the intention and the plans are for the department. I know that when we had a meeting with David Opaka, I believe he said that there weren't any plans on putting the group homes in right away because the state didn't have any money. But according to the Light and Water meeting, they're looking like it'll be June 2014. So that there's getting mixed messages, different stories. So I don't know, you know, the state is willing to reimburse the light company the cost of upgrading their electrical system. They're really balking at updating the water system. So I don't think they're, you know, looking at doing the water system, taking over that will probably remain private, but I don't know, we won't know until we actually get a report on what is going on and what the plans are for the Light and Water Department. So I will make a motion that the chairman write a letter to the manager of the Light and Water Department to attend one of our meetings and give us an update on the contracts as well as the activities at Templeton Developmental Center.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion made by Selectman Farrell, seconded by Selectman Morrison. Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes?
Ken?
Yes.
And yes. And that is the end of the agenda. At this time, meeting reminders, the planning board has a hearing on the August 13th. The ZBA hearing Wednesday, August 14th at 6:15. The advisory board has a meeting Thursday, August 15th at 6:30. Conservation meeting Monday, August 19th at 7 p.m. And there's a joint town meeting Thursday, 8/22nd at 7 in the Narragansett Middle School Auditorium. The next Board of Selectmen meeting, regularly scheduled Monday, August 26th at 6:30 at here. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Selectman Robinson, seconded by Selectman Farrell. Any discussion? Hearing none. Julie?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And yes, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.